is that some people can find it quite triggering when we say, no one's coming to save you, so it's all your responsibility type whatever. And it's not to say that these things, these challenges are not present and that they haven't happened, but that whenever we use those things as reasons for us not getting what we want, we disempower ourselves. And today is always all about how we empower ourselves, isn't it? So it's going to be in kind of 3 parts. So what it looks like if we are holding back or disempowering ourselves, why it happens. So why do we end up doing the going kind of against ourselves and clipping our own wings? Why do we do that? And then the last part will be what we can do about it. What things can we use to empower ourselves? So we start with a quote, and this week's quote is, "No one is coming to save you, to give you permission to choose you or validate you. This has always been your job."
That's it. Exactly. We always kind of, we can be in this lower energy thinking, how can somebody else help me, or how can, we're putting our power into somebody else's hands. But it's actually when we take our power into our own hands that we can actually truly live our lives to the fullest and take control back of our lives, take our power back in essence. So it is all down to us. We're the only ones that are responsible for the outcome of our lives.
Yeah, and what I was saying when you dipped out for a minute is that some people can find it quite triggering when we say, no one's coming to save you, so it's all your responsibility type thing. Because people, there is genuine reasons why people have perhaps not made the progress in their life that they want, or they've taken a different turn, or they, maybe they had children and didn't go for their big goals because they became a mother, or lots of other things. Maybe there was a financial crisis and they lost their home or whatever. And it's not to say that these things, these challenges are not present and that they haven't happened, but that whenever we use those things as reasons for us not getting what we want, we disempower ourselves. And today is always all about how we empower ourselves, isn't it? Yeah. So it's going to be in kind of 3 parts. So what it looks like if we are holding back or disempowering ourselves, why it happens. So why do we end up doing the going kind of against ourselves and clipping our own wings? Why do we do that? And then the last part will be what we can do about it. What things can we use to empower ourselves? So part 1 is, what does it look like? And I was going to say that I was definitely somebody who was completely disempowered. I thought I was in a job I'd been in for a long time. I was a single parent. I felt overlooked. I felt like there was no way I could progress where I was as the only way I could progress is to go full time, which I didn't think was the right thing for me and the children, because I was the only adult. At the time, I didn't have a lot of family. I do have my sister in Manchester now, but before I didn't have family in Manchester. So I was it. It was me, for my kids. And I just didn't think going back full time was right for my family. So then I was like, well, what do I do with, like, I felt like I was just plodding along, and plodding along until retirement or until the kids grow up or something. I don't know what I was waiting for, but I was definitely waiting for something. Now, fortunately, which at the time felt very unfortunate, I had like a bit of a health scare where things had just come to a head. It was an anxiety attack, but it was maybe a heart attack. And then I took up meditation and made massive changes to my life. And now I feel super empowered. That doesn't mean I don't have challenges. That doesn't mean that some days I think, oh, I could have done more, but generally I feel like even on my less productive days, I still feel like I'm getting somewhere. And it's that being able to validate yourself, like, the steps that I've made make me feel good. I can see that I'm moving towards something, even if the vision isn't 100% clear. I can see I'm moving in a direction that I like.
Yeah.
And that's a massive difference. It's instead of feeling stuck, you know, I think a lot of teachers feel stuck. They're like, I don't really feel good here, but I don't know what else to do. I don't know how else I can get paid this amount of money and have the holidays to be with my kids and various other things. You know, if you go into a new profession, you're starting at the bottom of the rung, so you're going to lose a lot of money. And some people, you know, the teacher in the family might be the breadwinner, they might be the major earner, and so then they feel like they haven't got a choice, you know, so it's feeling really stuck. But I felt I've become empowered without anything changing really on the external. So it was my relationship to what I was doing that was the problem, you know. And that's not to say that I haven't made changes, but I was like overwhelmed and burnout and having anxiety attacks, and now I do so many more things than I was doing then, you know, and I don't feel that at all. So why is that? And I would argue it's mindset, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it is. It's changing your perception on things. Like, we can be in this victim mentality and this disempowered mentality, thinking that the world is against us, thinking that everything is going wrong. But if we just take a step back and see what we can do to change it in our minds first, but then change it in our realities, and then having the control of even making those hard decisions, making the decision to step up or to step back, to say no or say yes, all of these little things. You know, as you said, nothing really changes in the external, but when it changes internally, that's where the power lies. And it isn't making those hard decisions that for our own lives that we can actually change the outlook when we don't even have to change much, really, just accept what's within us.
Yeah, yeah. And it is, I guess, uncomfortable initially because, like, I felt, so just taking one aspect of the problems that I was experiencing. So I felt overlooked. So I didn't feel like I was appreciated particularly. You know, I didn't think my efforts at work were noticed, and I didn't see that I would be rewarded in any way. And so when you think like that, you're blaming them not seeing you, you know? And was it that they didn't see me? Was it that I didn't see myself? You know? It was, I need someone to validate me, and they're not validating me enough, you know?
Yeah,
And that's in the absence of me validating myself. That's
yeah,
what the
it's
problem
the
is.
energy. It's the energy. Like, your perception was that people didn't see you, but the actual fact was, as you just said, you didn't see yourself. And your outer reality is a reflection of your internal reality. So you not seeing yourself meant that you're effectively hiding. You know what I mean? You're putting up this energetic barrier. But once you start to see yourself, then the world saw you. And it is all about choosing yourself first, seeing yourself first, validating yourself first. Then the external will validate you, but you don't even need it then because you're already validating yourself, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think another problem I had in that was that I was really indecisive as well. So I didn't even, and we'll talk about this in a bit, but I didn't even know what I wanted. I didn't even know what it was, you know, and you can't aim for something if you don't know what you're aiming for, you know, and it doesn't have to be really specific. I mean, it's great if you can be really specific about where you want to be going, but when you've got no direction at all, it's very hard to make steps in any direction. So it's having some, so like we say this a lot, but self-awareness is so important, isn't it?
And it's just even setting the intention, even, sorry for interrupting there, but like,
Yeah,
even before, you don't even have to, as you said, take the action step, set the intention.
yeah,
Make sure the intention is clear. Have something in your mind where you want to go, because if you're directionless, you're literally just scattered, and then you go nowhere. Whereas just set a simple intention: I want this for my life. I want better. I want, to see myself, even just to say those things. And setting those intentions will actually open up those doors for you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Now we talk about this before, but our brains filter, it distorts, deletes, and generalizes. So taking the example of I'm someone who's overlooked, if somebody gave me a comment that was complimentary about my work, the chances are I would have just filtered it out. It would have gone in one ear and out the other. But the moment somebody said, oh, this planning isn't up to scratch, or the books are a bit messy, I would absorb that, because that's what I was expecting. That's what you get, what you expect. So our filters we need to really be aware of what our filters are, and we can change our filters through things like affirmations and action. Actually, if we take action and build positive experiences, then it changes our filter. If we have a positive experience and we notice the positive experience, because that's the other thing, sometimes we'll be like, something positive can happen and we cannot concentrate on the positive. We can search. Some people can search for the negative in anything. So let me tell you this little story about my dad. Sent me a message, and we'd all been off for a family holiday together, and then we all went our separate ways because we all lived in different places. And he sent me a message that, we've got home safe, because we always let each other know we're home safe when we've seen each other and we've got a journey to travel on. And he then went on to, we're home safe, we stopped off at this place, the food, the food was lovely, but then he had to complain. So the next thing was that, we ordered a coffee and you should have seen the size of the complimentary cake. And I was like, I think the bit that you were supposed to focus on there, Dad, was it was complimentary. Like, it doesn't matter how small it was, it's better than no cake.
It's like that quote. It's like in a field full of roses, you're only going to see the thorns. It's like, oh my God, like the roses are right in front of you.
Yeah, and that's something. I can say I was like that as well. I'm from a place of judgment, but you can, when you become self-aware of your behaviors like that you can be just a bit negative whenever you're searching for the negative stuff. You can rewire that through gratitude practices and affirmations and things like that.
You're reminding me of this Irish this thing that we do in Ireland. But I mentioned to somebody, great, we were talking about weather, it's great weather, whatever, and their comeback was, but it's going to rain on Thursday. Like, we're in the middle of a heat wave and you're complaining that it's going to rain in 4 days. Come on, be positive, not negative.
Yeah, that's craziness, isn't it? Yeah. But you do find that. Or people finally we get a nice day and then they're complaining it's too hot, and I think I've done this recently. I was like, it's just typical, isn't it, that it was beautiful weather when the kids were at school and now it's not so great. But actually we were really lucky because it was supposed to rain the weekend we went away, and it barely rained at all. It was really nice. So I should tell myself that, spot the positive. So we need to be aware that we have a filter, and that our filter will show us, basically, it's our lens for life, will show us what we expect to see. So we have to be intentional about what we're looking for, particularly when we want to change our outlook on life. So if we tend to think that, when nobody says anything positive about us, or bad things always happen to us, and I'm not saying that bad things don't happen, but the chances are lots of good things probably happen too, and it's not taking away from the fact that people might be struggling in some areas of their life, but guaranteed there'll be some good places, some good things that they can focus on too. Yeah. So some signs that you might be holding back. So you might have things like persistent self-doubt. So who am I to do that? Or that's not for me, or I'm too old to do that. That's something that I would have said before I started karate, I'm too old to do that. Overthinking a decision, like I said, indecisiveness, analysis paralysis, where you think things out to such a degree that then you just can't take action, fear of failure and success, procrastination on goals and dreams, behavioral things, saying no to opportunities. I was someone who just didn't see opportunities. And I always say this, like, and if an opportunity opened, I'd slam that door shut. That's not for me. That's far too much work, you know, and that would happen at work. Yet I'd still tell myself that I was over, so like that I wasn't noticed. And, you know, it's funny when you become self-aware that you see how many things that you would just like, you know, you create yourself in many ways. And that's not to say other people might not be at fault, or there might be an element of truth in some of it. But definitely, I think we exaggerate. I used to exaggerate how bad things were and completely ignore the good stuff. Avoiding risks. So, for example, going online, talking online, that was a risk, you know. We signed policies saying, you know, we've got to be careful on social media and things like that. You know, so then I was like, oh, well, I'm going to get in trouble, you know. But it does, it crosses your mind, doesn't it? But I mean, it's, you know, if you know that what your message is pure and, you know, good, then it's not really a risk, is it? You know. But what people will think, risking what people will think, not wanting to try anything new, staying in your comfort zone, staying in relationships or jobs or routines that don't serve you.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like this is another really big one about empowerment, is walking away from situations that don't serve you anymore. Walking away from people that drain your energy. Saying no to people when you're always saying yes. You know, not setting healthy boundaries. You know, sacrificing your own needs for the needs of others. These are all ways that we can feel disempowered. Not speaking your truth, not stating your opinion, not stating your needs. So yeah, that is very important. Being very mindful of who you have in your energy, what you have in your energy, and empower yourself by walking away if it's needed.
Yeah. And so your dialogue with yourself is probably not, you know, you need to be a cheerleader for yourself, don't you? And so if the things that you tend to say to yourself is not like cheering yourself on, that doesn't mean like, you know, bigging yourself up when you it's also being realistic. It's also being like, you know, I could have done better then, but not being judgy about it, like being compassionate about it.
So self-compassion, yeah, that's so important. You know what I mean? Because we all make mistakes, but learn that it's a lesson. You know, if we're hard on ourselves for doing something what we perceive as wrong, then we're not going to move forward because we're just going to reprimand ourselves. But when you actually see it as a life lesson and a way of not, you know, a way not to do it, and then the next time try again, but tweak what you did. This is so important. That's empowerment as well. Learning from your mistakes is empowerment.